All right, hey, welcome to the PogoChamp level editing showcase stream demo thing. As a reminder, as we get into this, I worked on PogoChamp solo for like 2.5 years. Uh, and so any insane naming or horrible code or stuff that doesn't make any sense is fine. So don't worry about it.
It works, it works.
Yeah. Uh, and hopefully, after seeing how this works, you'll understand why there isn't an in-game level editor. All right, so this is Unity. Uh, let's see. We'll start with this bottom panel here. This is the project panel. This is where all of your files are, files and folders. So in most Unity games, there's an asset folder, assets folder, and then somewhere in here is the scenes folder. Scenes are basically the levels in your game. Um, they're scene files. So in PogoChamp, you go to scenes, then levels, and then I have a few different folders of levels. These are broken up almost by the like quote unquote difficulty of those levels. There are tutorial levels with things like, basics, which is, oops, resume, come on, gotta zoom in to something that's an actual real object. This is tutorial underscore basics or tutorial underscore camera, right? Just the super simple levels. Then I have like easy, medium, hard, and also old levels because I made a bunch of levels a really long time ago and a couple of them stuck around and I never moved them. That's like football, fan favorite, intersection, also fan favorite, and your room, which are, come on, get through that wall. Yeah, nice old levels. Um, anyway, so that's the project panel where all your files are. Then on the left here, once you're inside a scene, this is the hierarchy of objects. So everything exists inside your scene at the top, and then these are the different sub-objects that exist in the scene and the things that compose them. So computer, for example, is this little Unity game object, and then it has a cube over here for your tower, and then the monitor is made up of a cube and a canvas, which shows canvas is just like a thing that shows an image or other UI. And it's made up of another cube that is very not cubular, but we can get into how to make cubes that aren't really cubes a little bit later. You can see that as I click on these things, this panel on the right changes. That is the inspector panel. The inspector panel shows all sorts of important information about the game object that you have selected. So if we go to like the level state manager, which is a big uh, important game object that you're going to need in every level um, in order to test it properly. There's all sorts of shit attached to the level state manager, like the player character prefab, which is character and camera, because I have a lot of different versions of character and something. And there's like a pass-through loading scene, which is like the black loading screen, a level state manager additive scene, which just makes sure that the levels have everything that they need, and blah, 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 blah. There's tons of other stuff. In general, if you're just editing, all you need is to have one of these in the scene. You can find them if you just go to, in the project panel, level state, oops, typos, level state manager. You see it right here. It's got that blue box, and you can just drag it into the scene, and then you have one. But in general, for level editing, you're going to want to start with a level that exists already, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Um, this central panel, which I've been moving around in, is the scene view. There's also the game view. The game view you can't move around in. The game view is what you see when you're actually playing the game. So it shows what the camera that's in the level sees. And when you hit play up here, then it swaps over to the game view and you can actually play the game. So if I go in here into the scene view while this is happening, you can actually pop open the two panels at the same time. So on the right here is the gameplay view, but then on the left is the scene view where I can, move around and I could like move stuff, and you see how it moves in the game panel. Changes that you make while the game is playing don't persist. So if I stop playing, you'll see the computer moves back to the desk. In general, I like to keep the scene view and the game view in the same panel and don't have them both open at the same time because it's not super useful. All right, so I've covered that. Next up is something that's pretty PogoChamp specific, which is there's this object called level order, level order config. And this is where all of the information for the levels lives in the game. So it's a special object that I made just for PogoChamp. It shows some stats like I assign a difficulty to each level, and that difficulty is approximately used for level sorting, like ordering the levels in the game, but it's mainly used for the daily challenges, where the daily challenges make sure to pick some easy early levels first, and then the levels get harder throughout the challenge so that you don't have like a daily challenge that starts off at level 99 and then goes to level 1 or something stupid like that. But these difficulties they don't really have any impact. You can change them to whatever you want. But I outline all of those. I have this thing to double check that none of the star times are incorrect. This incorrect star time section will show if like a 3-star time is longer than a 2-star time or something like that. Also duplicates, because there are issues when you create a new level and it copies the same information. This just warns you that like, oh, those two levels are the same. Also have this total times thing to see what the total time would be if you got that many stars on all the levels, just for debugging purposes. And then we have the actual levels in order. And so this is, if you want to find one of those level files that I showed, tutorial_basic, this is where you come to find all of those in a reasonable way. So if you go to Maxi Golf, you can expand it, and then you see that the name is Maxi Golf, but the scene is easy_golf. And you have the 2-star time, 30 seconds, 3-star time, 22 seconds, secret time, 18.5 seconds, and this is secret level flag, which is only for level 101, because that level is not visible naturally until you beat level 100. So you can just double click on Easy Golf, and it takes you straight there. If we wanted to check out a different level, like Demolition, you can see its name is Demolition, but its scene name is easy_wall jump training 2, because reasons. And we can just go right there. So in each of these levels, you'll see a blue level state manager and a blue spawn point, and also sometimes belonging to a different object, you will see a goal zone. There are a couple different types of goal zone, but these 3 objects, spawn point, level state manager, and goal zone, are essential. any level that has those three things can be played fully. And they take care of spawning in your character, adding a camera to the scene, having a target that you get to, recording replays. All of that stuff is fully encapsulated with those three objects. Um, but in general, you're going to want to make a new level by starting with an existing level. So let's start doing that. Who has a level idea?
Hmm.
I mean, we have some level ideas for like 30% of the existing levels. So
Yeah, we could
what
do
was
that.
the Minnie, did you want to do the um well, I don't know, it's up to you. Something that might be really, really easy to do is just to go to tightrope and
Sure.
just remove the tightrope.
All right. So you see when I click on tightrope here, it highlights it in this project panel. So we can take this and hit Control D to make a duplicate. And we can call this, we can rename this ninja underscore tightrope. And we can create a little folder in here called ninja. Right, ninja's what we name these things, right?
Yeah.
So ninja tightrope, and then we'll just drag it in there. So right now I'm in medium tightrope, but if I just double click, now we're in ninja tightrope. And so I can come over here, just to make sure you understand how to control in a 3D scene. So if you middle click on your mouse, you can like pan. If you zoom, or if you scroll, you zoom in and out. If you right click, you can aim the camera. And while you're holding right click, you can also use WASD to sort of fly around. You can use Shift WASD to fly a little faster. Then you can click on objects with left click to select them. And that's mostly it. You can also select them in this panel, or in the hierarchy panel on the left. But yeah, so if we wanted to delete the rope and tightrope, you just select that and hit delete. And then if we hit play,
Boom. Whole new level.
yep. Would you want the guy to stop being sideways?
Maybe. Probably.
So if we go to spawn point and spawn orientation, just so I have two inspectors here, just so that you don't get confused. One of them is locked to the level order because I need to use that all the time, so it's useful to have it locked. You can lock an inspector by just hitting this lock button, and you can create a new inspector by coming over here and hitting add tab. So I would recommend that you create an inspector that has the level order, but then to look at the actual objects that you're dealing with in the scene, you go back to the first inspector. So if we go to, this is the spawn point. Spawn points have a spawn orientation. So you can see these little arrows. Green is by default up. Blue is forward by default, and X is to the right by default. Each spawn point, the spawn orientation can be pointed in a different direction, and so this corresponds to how your character spawns. So you can see that the green arrow is pointing to the right, which is why the guy spawns pointing to the right. If you then go into the rotation and just change it to like 0, 0, 0, then he'll be pointing upright as expected. You can actually, I think, just reset this. I don't know if that's going to make him clip into the floor. It's been a while. No, so that's fine. Yeah. So there we go. That's new tightrope.
So this is probably the most simplistic one that I could think of because it's just deleting a single item. So if you wanted to, I guess, could you go to boxing?
Sure. Where to go? Boxing. Easy platform cloud. So we'll hit Control D. Make a copy of that. Drag it into Ninja. All right, we are in boxing. Oh, and when you're trying to go directly to a thing, like if your camera's zoomed out or in a weird spot, you can click on something in the hierarchy and then just hit F, and it'll take you right to that thing. It's a super convenient hotkey.
Yeah,
So,
so with this one, this is quite a bit more complicated because it's not just about deleting an item, but you'd have to shrink these down to the size of just being one of the squares
mhm,
on that block of 4
mhm.
each. So,
Yeah, so that there are a couple different ways to do that. Game objects in Unity have what's called a scale. So you could say like this is 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and all of a sudden this object is smaller. One problem with this is that you'll notice that it still looks like it's 4 tiles. The When you scale an object, the shader, the material that's applied to that object also scales down. So that's a problem in general for the way that I design levels because I was very specific about making sure that the grid tiles that are displayed are always, they end up being 4 meters by 4 meters. Because if they change size, then you lose perspective on a lot of levels, or you can't rely on them as a way to gauge size and distance. So the other way to scale something down is to use what's called ProBuilder. ProBuilder is how I build most of the levels in the game, and it is a tool that lets you take your objects and sort of deform them or change their faces pretty much however you want. So this panel in the middle up here is part of the ProBuilder panel. This panel on the left is also ProBuilder, but these buttons up here let you change your ProBuilder objects. So if we take this faces object, for example, or faces selector, you can see that I can pick each of the faces of this cube and I can select it, and then I could move it. And it's currently snapping. You can see that it jumps by specific units. That's based off of this number right here. So I can change this value to be like jump by 2, these are meters effectively. So if I do that, it'll jump by 2 meters. It's offset a little bit because this is locked to the world coordinate system. So you can see that this cube is not actually at like a very well-defined world coordinate. So sometimes using the the ProBuilder snapping can be a little bit janky. But if we can also turn that off, it's whatever. So I can come in and I can say do and make this. Is that how much smaller you wanted it to be?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we can take this, move that up. I don't know if that's exactly 1 meter. There's a way to check. Object size 4, 425, and 4. So if we move that 1 tick up, then it's 444. And then this is offset from its original position. So if we wanted to, we could move it. Let's see, it was 8 across, so move it by like, what, 2? And then another 2 in this direction. Or more or less there. So that's one way to do it. That would be pretty annoying because there's a lot of different boxes. Another thing that you could do for that is you could say, take this cube. There's a way to. So sometimes with Pro Builder, you end up in weird situations where the like the anchor point of your physical object isn't actually in the center of that object, and that can be annoying. But there is a way to recenter your anchor. I just don't remember what it is because it's been a long time. But in theory, you could, what you could do is you could make a new cube. Here, let's make a cube that is 4 by 4 by 4. Remember, these are meters. So we have this cube that's 4 by 4 by 4, and then we could place one of these cubes in the center of every existing cube. That's probably the better way to do it because you don't have to muck with Pro Builder as much, and you don't have to do like individual faces one at a time. And then once you have it placed where you want, you would just come in and delete the old cube. And doing that for each of the cubes is tedious, but not that annoying. And then once you've got, so you can see that the new shape that I made this cube is not textured. If I click on one of these other cubes, you can see over here under Mesh Renderer Materials. So the mesh is just the 3D object. Mesh Renderer is the thing that makes that object visible. And materials are the things that are on the surface of that object that you can see. So we have, in this case, styled surface grid material dash blue comma light blue. That's the one that looks like that. So we can come over to our new cube that has just the default lit material. We can hit this button and we can type styled surface. And we have a ton of different colored styled surface grid materials. And we can pick blue, light blue, and select that. And you can see that it looks like it's scaled to the wrong size. This is because of what are called UVs, which I don't know what that stands for. I just know that they're annoying. So you can come into, the reason that this is offset like this is the material and the shader associated with it draw grids, right? And so grids have points where there's where there's an intersection. And it happens to be that this intersection point lines up with like 0, 0. And so because that 0, 0 is in the center of each of these faces of the cube, it looks like it's at 0, 0. You can come in to select a face, and then you can come to the Pro Builder panel and hit UV Editor. And in here, let's see if I select more faces, you can see if I just select I come here and select the whole object with Control A. You can see each of these squares is one of the faces. And then I can do stuff like move. Oh wait, that's the wrong face. What is happening? Right. Let's select it this way. I can come in here and I can shift where the lines are. And it can be a little bit unintuitive to do this. I also don't know why it's doing it diagonally. That's very strange. But you can come in and like tweak that, and it's pretty annoying to do. Or instead of dealing with all of that bullshit, what you could do is you could go, hey, wait a minute, aren't there like boxes in a different level that are sort of already set up correctly? Oh yeah, there are a bunch in level 100. So we can pop into level 100 real quick. fly around. And they are right over here. So you can just come in, grab a box, hit copy. Then we go back to Ninja, this thing, come over here to one of these boxes, and then we just hit paste. Where'd it go? Box. And we can, it's positioned in some sort of random location. So we can come back here. Oh, what the fuck? Where is this? We can copy where this box is, come back to this box, paste it, and then all of a sudden we have a box where we, whoops. Oh, no, that box didn't copy. Man, why you gotta be like that, boxes? Mesh is missing. Weird. And then stuff like that happens. Let's try that again. Uh, something we can do instead of trying to copy paste is we can actually make this box what's called a prefab, which many things in the game are prefabs. Prefabs are just basically reusable objects. You can see inside this prefabs folder, there's a bunch of subfolders and stuff like character, conditional goal zone, dummy ragdoll placeholder, brick break variant, goal zone, jump charge UI, pogo stick ragdoll placeholder, pogo stick, all sorts of stuff. So we can take this box and just drag it in here, and hopefully it's not going to try and overwrite that. No, don't replace it. Come on. All right. So now we have something called box, which copies everything we need from box. And then we can go back to, it's in Ninja, platform cloud, don't need to save there. Come back here, then we can look for box. I recommend basically using search whenever you're trying to get anywhere in Unity, as opposed to like trying to use the file system. So we can come back here, we can drag box out, and is box still not there? The fuck? Well, that's annoying. Well, never mind. Thought I knew what I was doing. Oh well. Then, yeah, it's the move, third time's the charm. The move is probably you just take one of these cubes. You use Pro Builder. What the hell? You make it smaller so that the grid lines line up. And then from there, we can rename this small cube. And then from there, you would just copy paste this small cube wherever it needs to go. You can also, you can see that, did you notice that green outline? That was the collider for the cube. Sometimes it can render the wrong size for the collider, and you can just fix that by toggling this mesh collider on and off. But yeah, then you can just sort of drag this around, put it in whatever location it's supposed to be at. And then delete the outer cube. So that's probably how I would go about doing it. Yeah, this level's going to be a nightmare with small cubes. Good idea.
Yeah, we can
Um,
delete half the cubes. It'll be even harder and
Yeah,
less work.
I mean, most of the cubes are useless. So,
Okay, so touched on deleting objects and rescaling existing ones, copying and pasting assets. So can you go to controlled fall next?
sure.
So the things that I want to ask about in this are moving around and rotating existing objects and then setting conditionals for the goal.
Mhm.
So if we wanted to take each of these rings and move them into like haphazard angles and parts of this fall here,
Mhm.
so that you had to utilize jumping off the wall
Mhm.
into them and add more and then make that part of the conditional for the goal, how would you go about doing that?
Sure. So each of these rings, you can see they are called activatable ring. Their activatable ring it has a blue box, which means it's a prefab. So you can use those in a lot of different levels, and hopefully they will work better than that box I was trying to copy. So they are game objects. So they have what's called a transform, which just defines a position in 3D space. You can modify this transform there are a couple different ways to do it. You can drag using these arrows that are on the object, um, or you can adjust these numbers directly. So you can like drag and slide these numbers. Um, the top ones are position, right? Position changes. You can also, so using these options up here, so this is the move objects tool. You can also rotate up here. So when you rotate, it's a little hard to see on this because of the collider. Let's maybe turn, no, I can't turn that off. It's hard to see, but there's this little sphere. Maybe that's easier. Let me just make this not visible. All right. So you can see the sphere around the thing, and when I drag on one of these circumference things, I can adjust the angle of this object kind of any way I want in 3D space, right? So that's how to move objects around. To make a new one, you can just copy paste, and then all of a sudden you have another ring. You can also, instead, you could go down here and type activatable ring, and you could drag that out into the scene or drag it into the hierarchy view. When you do that, you'll notice that this ring is a little bit different. It doesn't have the little pole there. Some of the rings have the pole, some don't. Again, I would just recommend finding a level that has it and copying inside that level. For conditional goal zones, so there's a concept in the game called activatable, which you can see activatable ring. Activatables are things like rings and buttons, and they have on their prefab, they have some trigger colliders, but they also have a script attached to them, which if I close some of these, they have a script for rings. It's called ring trigger, which in general you're not going to need to modify. But the convenient thing about ring trigger is that when you have a goal that needs to be activated by a condition, you will use what is called conditional goal zone. If I can click on this. So goal, then we have fancy goal zone. So it has this script called goal zone. And somewhere in here, no? Oh, wait. Sorry, yeah, it's parent object. So there's the goal, that's one thing. But then the parent of the goal, if the goal is conditional, needs to have a script called conditional goal zone. And the conditional goal zone references the child goal object, in this case fancy goal zone, and has what's called a disabled goal zone VFX. And that will, if we hop into the code, take a little bit. That will, at the start of the level, like when the level loads, what that does is it will get, pretty sure, yeah, it will get every object in the level that has that is of type conditional goal zone condition. So things like ring trigger is are a conditional goal zone condition. And so the goal zone will find all of those in the level and automatically require them to be triggered in order to activate. So you won't need to do any manual work to get additional rings to activate. It's all just kind of automatic. So if we were to take one of these rings, copy paste, and then where is it? Okay. And then if we just like move it somewhere that it can't activate, then it should. Why am I turned around? You can see, because I didn't activate all of the rings, the goal zone didn't activate. And if I were to delete all of these rings, all right, let's not delete that one. Let's delete a higher up one. Come on. Can be a little annoying to select the right objects. If we come up here, delete a bunch of these. You can see the goal zone is already activated because there are only 2 rings. So that should work pretty much automatically out of the box. It's just a matter of adding as many rings as you want and moving them however you want, I think. The one caveat to that is that replays are a little bit complicated, and it's maybe a little early to get into the nitty gritty of replays, but you'll see that if I were to take this ring and copy paste it, all of a sudden I start getting this error. And this panel over here gets really noisy. This error, you can see, is multiple additional recordable objects in the scene have the same UUID. This will result in errors during playback. The names are activatable ring 1, activatable ring 2, blah, 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 blah. So the way that the replay system works is any object that is relevant for a replay is given, a script is attached to it, and in that script it's assigned a special unique identifier, or UUID, universal unique identifier. Each of those IDs needs to be unique among objects in the scene that are recorded. So each ring in this scene needs its own ID. When you copy paste, it copies the ID, and so that's a problem because when the replay plays, those 2 objects will record with the same ID, and then when you play it back, they'll try to move or activate at the same time. So the simple fix is you just, whatever the object you just copy pasted is, you come over and you hit randomize UUID, and then the errors stop and the replays work. But we can get into replay stuff later because it's complicated.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to ask about after this was quote unquote enemy behavior. So the footballers in sports, or the bull and This Is Some Bull, or the helicopter in Chopper,
Mhm.
and how you would manipulate the behavior of the enemies.
They are all unique. Each one is coded pretty much independently. They are not related to each other in any way. So in sports, where's sports? Sports, we can come over here. We can take a look at these football guys. These football guys use Unity's nav mesh system. So that's a whole thing. It interprets this entire area as like a navigable area. These guys have like a nav mesh agent component that defines like their radius that they exist in, and you can change their like speed and stuff. So that's probably what you would care about, I'm guessing, is like making them move faster, right?
Yeah.
So
So
if you
what if I
select,
wanted to make them faster and increase their? I'm assuming because they're just like a normal object, besides the ability to behave in a particular way, you can just scale them the same way you scale a normal object, but there's additional attributes that you would apply here for things like speed because they can move in a 3D environment.
yeah. So let's just try, I scaled them up to be twice as big in every dimension, and I increased their speed from 3.5 to 13.5, and we'll see what happens. They seem big and they seem fast. Yeah, that seemed like it worked. So yeah, that was just a matter of
Easy.
what? Yeah, easy. And you could, that was because I selected all of them, but you could come into just one of them and make him like a really big guy for no reason. Like make him really big, and then one of them will be big and they'll be fast. You can modify things. When he's that big, he probably won't kill you because the hitbox for the lightning is kind of specific. But you can also move that. You can see in here, opposing player has a body. Which is made up of the sort of back and then the two hands as individual things. And then this cube is the thing that kills you. If you wanted to adjust that so that it like goes higher or lower, you can just modify the size, and you can even like move it up and down and stuff. You'd also want to make sure to move the lightning effect if you modify the size or the position. But yeah, for these guys, it's mostly just modifying the nav mesh agent, which is like a Unity built-in thing.
So it is a little bit different for Chopper and This Is Some Bull because
It's very different.
they contribute to a condition for the goal.
Mhm.
So they must have some sort of death trigger.
Yeah. The bull and the chopper are very different. Where is it? This is some bull. We definitely don't want to save those changes. All right. So the bull does not use a nav mesh agent. The bull uses, just to interrupt myself real quick, sometimes when you click, it'll click on the level state manager, and that's annoying because most of the time that's not what you want. You can come over here and click this finger thing to make it so that the level state manager is not clickable. Most of the time you're going to want to do that. So if we come and look at the bull, his name is Bull Car. The script that controls him is Bull Car Controller 2, the script. So we've got a bunch of different settings for him. I'm assuming what you're most interested is things under movement stuff. So we have max aim degrees per second, max steering degrees per second, attack acceleration curve, and the charge attack death collider, which I think that's just the horns in the head. So you probably want to modify those things. For the death trigger, now I don't remember for sure, but you can see that bull car controller 2 is a script, and that script is a conditional goal zone condition, meaning that the conditional goal zone will automatically pick up that this needs to be quote unquote activated in order for the goal to activate. So it should just work, which if you know anything about programming, should just work is big red flag. But if we put in a second bull and I can kill one of them, I'm guessing that the goal zone will not activate.
And I guess, kind of related to this,
They both died.
that's interesting. The bulls can interact with each other because they're physical objects, so one can kind of collide into the other one, right?
Theoretically, let's see. Where is spawn point? Spawn point. Let's move this up and create 3D object, cube, sure. Let's just move it to the same place as the spawn point, reset its position, then move it to not be a child of the spawn point. That's an easy way to get objects to be in the same position. And then we're just going to move the spawn point up a little bit. And we can scale this cube. This is just, oops. All right. This is just so that I am safe. We can see if the bulls actually collide with each other in a reasonable way. Yeah, they seem to push each other all right. If we were to move this one farther away. Yeah, that seems to work pretty well. If we were to just drop this one in the water, he's sad, the goal zone hasn't activated. If we were to drop this one in the water, come on, in the water, then there we go. So yeah, you could theoretically have 10 of them or whatever.
Surely not. That seems pretty lazy design, right?
Yeah, I mean, lazy design is the best design. And you can see, because the bull car is a conditional activatable recording object or whatever the hell it's called, you're going to get a lot of these errors again because I just copy pasted. So you can come into the copies and randomize UUID, randomize UUID, randomize UUID, or you could use this, randomize them all. That, for a level that already exists, could break replays that exist, but in this case, I don't care. Yeah.
And then in Chopper's case, it's going to have different characteristics, like not just movement speed, but fire rate, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we can take a look at that one.
And I guess health, because you have to hit it 3 times.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how that is implemented, but let's check it out. So we can make the level state manager not interactable. Click on the chopper. We have helicopter controller. You can open that up. Conditional goal zone condition. And we have the model, the colliders, the missile anchors, movement stats. We have the offset from the player, because the way that this helicopter moves, it always tries to keep a specific distance from you. Avoid area hitbox, I don't even know what that means. Damage levels. So these are the flame effects for how many times it needs to be hit. It doesn't look like there's a way to change the number of hits it takes without actually modifying the code. Um, let's see, there's a damage variable in here. Apply damage. Yeah, if damage is less than 3, update the visuals. So you would need to actually modify the code for that one.
Yeah.
But it is a relatively trivial code change, but you'd need to make sure
Yeah.
that you're not changing it for all of the helicopters in the game,
Sure.
because you wouldn't want to change it for the original chopper. So you would do something like, instead of this being a hard-coded 3, you would come up here and you would say, serialized field health or something, and then by default it would be 3, and then in this level you would change it to something else using, this panel.
Yeah. So can you? I mean, I'm just curious if you could add a helicopter to a level without it being needed to be defeated.
Yeah, so it, if the, so there's the goal zone script, which by default is activated, and goal zones only become deactivated when they are a child of something called a conditional goal zone. So if you were to, so helicopter is an object. If we were to just show up in all the things, and if we just drop in a helicopter, I guess there actually are rings in this level. This level's too long. Let's not do this level. Let's go to
I would do like retro
to
gaming or
it.
something.
How about this one?
Yeah, that works too.
So if we were to come in here and just look for a helicopter, and we drop it in, and we hit play. You can see that the goal zone is already activated. You can also see that the helicopter is glitching through the floor. So I think the helicopter ignores most colliders. One way to address this is to change the off, or I think maybe if we just raise it up at the beginning, it might not glitch through the floor. Been a long time. Let's see. There we go. Helicopter is nice and tall. It doesn't look like it's shooting though, which, if Minnie was right in that joke conversation, the helicopter doesn't shoot until you grab the bazooka.
I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure I just missed the bazooka one time and it just stared at me.
Start fighting. Looks like it should start fighting. So the bazookas are a little bit special. And even the helicopter bazooka is a little bit special. So if we come here, don't save. All right. So if we come here, the helicopter, is there bullet? Right. So there's this thing called Bazooka Bullet Manager. And that exists so that you don't have to respawn bullets in a level, because that can be like a performance problem, and also something replays. So if memory serves, you might need to put a Bazooka Bullet Manager, like copy paste this object into uh, levels where you want the helicopter to be where it wasn't. It's a little bit janky. Now, if you really wanted to be crazy, a way to get the helicopter into a level in like a pretty reliable way would be to start with this level, duplicate it, come in here, and then just like delete all of the stuff that doesn't seem relevant, like all the level geometry, and then copy the level geometry of a different level and put it in instead. Um, oh, I deactivated the wrong thing. And where's the helipad? Oops, helipad. So if we delete the helipad, that deletes the goal zone, but we can just come in and say goal zone. Oops, there's a lot of things called goal zone, but if we just go to fancy goal zone, we reset its position because it's placed in an insane location. And then if you wanted it to be in getting tilted, theoretically, you just come in here and copy a bunch of this stuff. Copy all of it, I guess. See if that works. Oh, no, we're in the Ninja version. So we'll have a duplicate level state manager, which is kind of a problem. Gotta delete that, and there's a duplicate spawn point, so delete that. But then, let's see. Can you shoot me? Also, the colors are all fucked up because the lighting on these levels are different. And yeah, it's might be more annoying to get the helicopter to shoot than my bro is passive. You need the bazooka. That makes sense. Cool. So
yeah, I don't know that we had any ideas to put like the helicopter on another level, but I was just curious about how objects with behaviors interacted on levels where they're not normally supposed to be.
yeah. In general they work, but there are certain things like in this case it will not start attacking you until you have the bazooka power up, which I don't even know where that fight mode update. I don't even know where that. All right, state fighting. Where do I change it to fighting? It says on started moving, start fighting. Start fighting. Maybe it's fighting but not shooting. Shoot missiles. When does that happen? Oh yeah, start fight if you have. Yeah. So this is you could code around this. So what's happening here is that it it doesn't start shooting until this on power pickup obtained trigger happens, which happens whenever you pick up any kind of power up. And that's why it doesn't start attacking you until you have the bazooka, because it's waiting. Theoretically, you could remove that check or like make it optional and have it start fighting you immediately.
Gotcha. I did just actually go into this level just to test a few things, and I noticed for the first time that there is actually a transparent wall in the game, which leads
Yep.
me to the question of, can you make anything in the game like an invisible object but still physical?
Yes,
And the
that's
second question, which is a follow-up, can you make something physical only through one direction?
so invisible physical objects. Yes, that's just baked into Unity. So if we make a new shape, make it 10 by 10 by 10, you can see that it looks like it's physically there. But if we were to just turn off the mesh renderer, the collider for that shape still exists. So if we were to, where are we? Drag that over there. There you go. So yeah, anything like colliders, which are the physical collision shapes, don't necessarily even need to have a visible object associated with them. If we come in here and just create a 3D or create an empty object, that's probably the way to do it. So we have some empty object which has no properties whatsoever. It's just a point in space. It's a little bit close to that rock, but it is in fact its own point in space. You can come here and you can add components to it, and we could say collider, and there are a bunch of different shapes of collider. If we were to make a box, then now this has physical presence in the world, but is invisible. If we wanted it to be visible, that's when we add a mesh to it. But then in order to like add a mesh directly, it's like a little bit annoying. Does this do anything? Yeah, adding a mesh manually is annoying. In general, if you want to add a box, you'll either want to do it through Pro Builder or by doing like create 3D object instead of create empty. Because if you create a 3D object cube, then it has everything you need, right? It has this mesh filter cube property, and then you can turn off the renderer if you wanted it to be invisible, or sometimes invisible. And your question about, so that was things that are not visible but still physical objects. This invisible wall is like a special case that has a special shader on it that only becomes visible as you get close to it. It's the object is grid shader, walls and floors, see-through, hidden, something, 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 something. Hidden border wall. And then your other question was, can you make objects that you can only go through in one direction? That
Yep.
is harder because Unity's built-in collision objects typically don't have directionality in that way.
Well, it makes so in a lot of platforming games you can
Yeah.
kind of go
Jump
up,
up through.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the concept that this might apply to in this game is that there is this idea about a potential super long Fadian level in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And to get around the infinite jump height cheese to just jump straight up to the top, you would have to periodically place walls or ceilings that you can fall through, but you can't go up through.
Right. So there are a couple ways that you could do that. Now I don't know. There might be a collider that does that in Unity. I think in 2D Unity, like the 2D colliders definitely have something like that. I don't know for 3D. What you could do in 3D though is you could have a collider that has a script attached to it, and in that script you check if the player is above you or below you. And if the player is above you, you disable the object or disable the collider. And if the player is below you, then you turn the collider on. And that would effectively do what you want, I think.
Okay. How much more time do you have?
I have plenty of time. I figured this would take like at least 2 hours. But
Okay,
yeah.
because I definitely have like 4 more things that I wanted to go over.
Yeah, shoot.
So can we talk about the other physics types?
Sure. What do you mean?
So I guess we could go to what is it, marathon or all the things, I guess.
Uh, all the things. Oh, you mean the power-ups?
Yeah. So there, besides the power up existing in a specific location, there are also gates that you have to go through,
Hmm.
or that'll like force you into a certain power up.
Yes.
Um, so how do these work? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
guess I'm just curious. Like these rings, you're kind of like forced to go through these rings, but it also forces you into the different power up, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So power-up granter. So these rings are like other rings. They are oh, they're not ring triggers. Huh. Okay. They are power-up trigger controller. What is this? This is just an arbitrary thing.
Wait, so those not being ring triggers means that you could do this level without going through all of them?
Uh, I'm not sure. Let's see. They're also. Oh, I see. Sorry. They're two objects. So there is a ring,
Hmm.
and then inside of that ring, if I turn this ring off, you can see there's still this special glowy zone. And this special glowy zone gives you the power up. So it's actually two completely separate objects. You can see power up granter swim and power up granter ball, and then separately activatable ring, activatable ring. So they, it's just two separate things. Theoretically,
Okay.
yes, if this uh, was not, if this didn't grant you a power up, you could still jump through the ring, but then you would die.
Okay, gotcha. So there was this idea about a really vertical level that you needed to basically build up a lot of speed and then go through the power up gate.
Mhm.
It takes away your ability to use the rocket, for example, and you have to use the momentum to continue up to a specific height.
Mhm.
So it's not based on the ring, it's based on this liquid that
It's just
you
that
go through and you can
collider. Yeah.
manipulate that, yeah, any way you want to.
Yeah. And if you're talking about taking away power ups, what you want is Ball Buster. Uh, where's Ball Buster?
Uh,
Ball Buster
yeah.
66. So this is the special power up remover power up thing, which is a prefab. So you can search for it in here, power up remover, and you can just place this wherever you want. So theoretically, in a level that already has a bazooka, you could just come in and drop a couple of these. Um, you can adjust it and scale it up, I guess. It's going to be pretty stupid if it looks that big, but hey, if it works, it works. You could also like turn off the mesh renderer or turn off the like glowy stuff if you wanted to. I can get into power-ups in general, just so that you sort of have a basic understanding of what their deal is, if you think that would be helpful. So power-ups, uh, in the level, power-ups are always, not always, are mostly granted with this power pickup prefab, which is a power-up trigger controller, or it's an object that has a trigger collider right? In this case, it's a capsule, which is, a pill shape. It could be a different shape collider. It has the trigger flag checked. It also has this power up trigger controller script attached to it, which specifies which power up it grants. So if you come in here, you can see the different power ups. Some things that you might not expect to be power ups, like the diamond. The diamond in Heist is actually a power up. So you can't have the diamond and the rocket or anything. The football is a power up. The hamster ball is the ball. Hang
What is
glider
God?
never got implemented. God power up, I think, it just makes you glow. I don't even remember. Galaxy Maker, God power up it doesn't exist. I don't know. Maybe let's see what happens when I grab it. Probably nothing. No, it's far away.
It lets you be as good as Noin, is what
Yeah,
it does.
exactly.
My God.
Half as good. This probably doesn't do anything. Yeah, doesn't do anything.
Not invincible or anything.
Nope. Yeah, there are power-ups that I like started making and then decided not to.
Well, that's
Like,
interesting. So how does 101 work then?
how does 101 work? What do you mean?
Yeah, because the character, you don't really have like a death box.
Oh, I literally so the character is made up of a couple of things, and I just removed the guy from it, and the guy is where the hitbox is. I'll get into that in a sec, but I do want to show you guys the best power up that got cut from the game, and then I can work through how 101 works. 101 is weird. Um, Come here, flamethrower power up. I don't remember if this still works because I haven't tested it in like 2 years. This is the flamethrower. So this was, there were going to be levels with like burnable logs. So you had to like walk up to a wall and then shoot fire at it and then burn it down. And there was like a seesaw block puzzle where you had to like burn the boxes on one side to make it lighter so that it would open a door or something. Yeah, this power up sucks.
PogoChamp 3, maybe.
Yeah, this power up is the worst. Love it.
That does sound
It
like
still goes in the
a
water.
horrible speedrun though. You get to the thing, but your head is turned the wrong way.
Yep, and you have to roll on the ground in order to reorient yourself because there's no way to turn. That's actually why I got rid of this power up, is because you can't spin. I would have had to add spinning, which I didn't want to do.
That's
All right,
So,
so the character.
well, real quick. So the behavior of the power up is
Oh,
all
right.
hard coded. There's nothing that you can do in the editor here to change how a power up might behave. Or
No, not really. So the power-ups are all prefabs. So if we come in here, power-ups are a little bit janky. But so there's like there's the visible physical object inside the power pickup trigger. That's one thing. And then there's the power up that you get when you actually pick it up. So if we come to like the fish power up variant, I think this is the one that you actually pick up. Pretty much all of the logic for this is baked into the player character's code. You can see this is the only script that's really attached to the fish power up, and all it does is apply to player, says character, which is the Pogo character controller version 3, is the script that controls how the character moves. So when this is applied, when we call the apply to player function, we just take the character and we mark the can swim flag as true. when we remove this from the player, we mark the can swim flag as false, and we also delete this this power up so that you don't run around with a fish head when you have a different power up. And then there's just stuff related to replays. So you can't like make the fish make you swim faster than usual in a specific level. You would have to hop into the character controller code and like add in some special case logic and do a whole bunch of other crazy bullshit. And this file is 1,500 lines long, and
Wow.
a little bit finicky, but
Yeah, I guess
it's not that bad.
my use case was if you went through a power up gate and it instead reversed the normal controls. So
Okay,
it made it intrinsically harder to just move, but it's not doing something unique like the rocket or the
right.
bazooka or something.
Yeah, so in order to do that, you would make a new power up. It would be some sort of reverse controls power up. And then in the player controller, probably, you would just set a flag. All right, so in the same way that the fish says like can swim equals true, you would have like a reversed controls flag equals, or the reverse controls equals true. And then inside the player, in here, um, input input manager. Yeah, so like in here where I get this like tilt vector input, you would basically just put a minus sign in front of that,
It's a
probably.
nice to do there.
To do lerpless? Hell yeah. I don't even know what that means anymore. What other to-dos do I have in here? To-do, apply some sort of damper over time for non-user input rotations while bouncing. That seems like a good to-do. To-do, param. It looks like a param. To reduce the impact of friction deceleration on an upward change in velocity of moving upwards relative to gravity. These are good to-dos. I should really do some of these. Handle things like nav vision, velocity. Yeah, sure. To-do, this is oh, this is my favorite. This is the best to-do in the whole game. Whole code
Oh,
base.
this is the bug where you get shot up like when you get killed by a giant in Skyrim.
Yep. This is what causes the ragdolls to sometimes have super speed. Maybe fix. Never gonna fix it. Yep.
Okay, so I want to talk about different perspectives. So 2D levels.
Yes, there was one other thing that I was thinking about while we were on power-ups, though, that I said I was gonna cover, but
Well, I guess
I
the
don't
fish
remember.
has the fish head has like the on the back end code that's relative to it, but what does bazooka look like?
Uh, Bazooka power-up. We have the pickup and the power-up variant. Bazooka power-up.
Okay, so you can change shot force directly there and shot speed.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay.
But that would change it globally, I think,
Oh,
because um,
and not
this,
even if you just copied the object there and made bazooka 2.
yeah. So the issue, let's go into a level that has a bazooka. Uh, blast off. So if we come in here, so this power pickup. You can see that this references a bazooka power-up scriptable object. That's a little bit different than some of the other objects that exist. This scriptable object exists in the file system, not in the level. And so this is the definition file for like what the bazooka power-up is across all levels. So it has this unique ID. It has a pickup prefab pickup prefab being the thing that you see before you pick it up, and the power up prefab. So the power up prefab is another object that exists in the file system, not in the level. And so that is the one that has this shot force and shot speed. What you could do is you could make a different version of the bazooka power up in the file system. So we could say bazooka power up, super. We could give this a unique ID, bazooka super. Then it gives this warning that this power up has not been added to the power up library. I have such good warnings. But before we fix that, we can go to power up prefab and we can make another bazooka dash super. We go back to our bazooka power up, and under power up prefab, we change it to bazooka super. And then when we come into bazooka super, we can change the shot speed to like, shot speed, I think, is how fast the bullet comes out, and shot force is probably how far it knocks you back. So if we change that to 14, and then we come here and we make sure that we select power up super instead of bazooka power up. Now we have the super bazooka. Yeah, so you can do stuff like that for the bazooka at least, by making a new power up and using that power up in the level instead of the original version of the power up. Now you'll have to deal with, to get replays working, you'll have to deal with this, but we can deal with replays a little bit later because replays are a whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was it. So we can move on to your next question, which was, I don't remember.
Perspective, so 2D
Perspective,
levels.
yes. Yeah, 2D levels are very funny because they're actually just 3D levels with a couple of extra
Yeah,
objects
I
in
kind
them.
of figured.
Yeah, so go to perspective shift, easy underscore just a 2D level. So you can see that I can still fly around in 3D. This level has like a weird fog layer on it. I don't remember why. But if we go in here, you can see the main objects that we have, like fancy goal zone, level state manager, and spawn point. There's also these two objects, which are 2D conversion not destroyed on load and 2D conversion destroyed on load. These two objects basically do everything that you need in order to, or everything that's needed in order to make the level work in 2D. So they do things like change which camera is being used, change the materials on the player objects so that it doesn't look all fucked up because it looks really fucked up by default. Change the color of the camera's background. And they also do things like prevent the character from falling out the third dimension. So if we were to like turn these off, and then we just need to make sure that this camera is set to perspective because otherwise it's all messed up. But if we turn those off, then all of a sudden this level is 3D now, and it's just a normal level. So you can theoretically turn any level into a 2D level. There will probably be some weird issues, but you can theoretically turn any level into a 2D level by adding these 2D conversion objects to it.
I really want to see the getting over it level in
3D?
3D.
Sure. Let's check it out.
Is it literally just the normal getting over a map copied in, and then you deleted like the top half?
No, I took a screenshot, or I took like the background image of, let me see if I can turn this off. Permission notification, just go away. What is this giant thing? Scene loading screen wipe. There we go. I took this image of the beginning of getting over it, and then I had to physically make like all of the colliders for it. So where this is the level reference. Colliders, here we go. So yeah, I had to manually make all of the colliders that match, and you can see that they're like much wider than the level. Um, so
This seems like a nightmare.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
nightmare. It sucked. It was really annoying.
Is
But
that why you
that's
didn't do the whole level?
no, I didn't do the whole level because that would be the worst level ever.
That would be the
Or
worst level
maybe
ever.
the best level ever?
Entire getting over it, that would suck so
Yeah.
much. Oh my God, that would be the
If it
worst.
wasn't like a massive amount of effort for a new person to have to go in and like extend this out to the rest of the level, it would make a funny ninja variant. Just be the
Yeah,
full thing.
yeah. I've also never beaten getting over it, so I don't even know what the rest of the level is or what the rest of the game is like. Um, Now, if we want to play this as a 3D level, it's probably not going to make any sense because there's no third dimension to these images. So it's not going to look like anything, but we can do it.
I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll work flawlessly. Oh, another thing for the fighting map, if we do that, is there a way to make like the pot so you have the invincibility, but you don't have the giant pot that like doubles your hitbox size?
You would probably just need to make a new power up pot. Yeah, so you would come in here, you would do basically you would copy the pot power up, but then instead of having this physical object, you could just delete it, um, and that would do it. Um, or you could create a new, or I guess you could just come here and turn off that sphere collider. Or yeah, but you would come in, you would look for pot power up, you would duplicate basically all of the relevant objects. So getting over at pot power up, you could create a duplicate, call it like invincibility power up or something. And then you would go in and give it a model, which I don't know what model you would give it. And then you would make a new kind of power up prefab that could be a copy of this pot model with power up prefab, and then just give them the getting over it power up because that gives you invincibility, and you delete any object that has a collider or visuals that you don't or that wouldn't work with your what you were trying to make. Huh. Oh yeah. There used to be a hammer.
That's funny, you just turned it off.
Yeah. I guess so.
Okay. So is this side perspective the only one? Have you ever tinkered with like a top-down perspective?
I have not. Yeah, this is the only one.
Hmm. Okay, and I guess if we were going to make a 2D level, we would just copy and paste perspective shift, rearrange the assets that way without changing any of the
Yeah,
actual aspects of the level.
yeah, that's what I would recommend. Or you could start with the classic, everyone's favorite level. But yeah, starting from a level that's already set up is probably the way to go. When you get in here, you'll probably want to like disable or like make invisible some stuff. Like the scene loading screen wipe is a big black window that's annoying. And I should really figure out why this turns gray, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'd just recommend coming into one of these existing 2D levels and doing it that way.
Okay. I guess the other things that I wanted to talk about, these are pretty quick. Um, the conveyors,
Hmm.
you can manually change their speed, the speed at which the conveyor is moving, right? But
Yes.
are you able to make the conveyor not a flat object and it still work?
So,
Yeah, like can you curve it like into a ramp?
um, not really. You can hack around that. Um, the way that I have hacked around that before is what you actually do is instead of having a conveyor that is an actual
Oh,
curve,
very nice.
you have a conveyor that is a collection of like smaller flat conveyors, right? So instead of in games in general, there's no such thing as true curves anyway. There's only like a certain amount of fidelity for a curve. Uh, so that's a good example for this. Let's see. If we go to
Not sure if the pits, those aren't really curved, right, in any way?
the pits, you
Is
mean
that what it is, or like
quicksand?
quicksand? That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, quicksand is an okay example for this. Um, so the way that quicksand works is instead of these being like an object that is, one thing, they're actually eight, eight, six. They're actually six conveyor belts that are just shaped a little bit differently. Um, so if I was gonna make like a ramp, which I wanted to go to, what is it? Long jumper. So if we wanted to like make uh, a curved ramp, the way that I would recommend doing it is instead of trying to make this shape actually curved, I would like just make a second conveyor belt and tilt it up a little bit, and then do that a few times. Uh, so the the way that the collisions work in the game, these conveyors are too long, but the way that collisions work in video games in general is there needs to be like eventually everything is a triangle, and so eventually like you're dealing with flat planes at some point. So it's not trivial to make things curved. Um, in theory, the conveyor belt script might work for curved surfaces, but doing something like this, where it's like a couple different slants, is probably more reliable. you'd have to sort of tweak the number of segments to get it to work properly and the spacing of them and everything. And then you'd have to mess with the UVs to get the timing right on the arrows to make it look seamless. But that's how I would do it. But this might have a bunch of weird. It seemed to work okay. But I do this in skee ball, I think. Where jackpot? No, that's not skee ball. Skee ball is skee ball. Jackpot is pachinko. Anybody remember what number skee ball is?
50.
Skee
58.
ball 58.
Yeah, I actually forgot about this, but they look pretty good.
Yeah, so this is, instead of a real curve, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conveyor belts. And so, I just hide the jank behind this wall. If we turn that wall off, you can see that there's like a bunch of Z fighting, and you can see the ends of the conveyors and stuff. But in general, that works pretty okay. You can sometimes end up with issues where like you can visibly bounce, which can be a little bit problematic, but for the most part, it works fine. Conveyors are quite janky, so I wouldn't try to do it. See how you get the little like bump, 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 bump.
hmm
But that's fine.
Is that the same thing that makes level 50 the worst thing that's ever existed on the planet?
No, that's a slightly different issue. That has to do with the way that collisions are detected. So the problem with this is, so this floor is flat, right? That's the trigger box, so it's separate from the actual physical object. That's the thing that triggers it. The green is the thing that triggers it to get destroyed. It's a little bit bigger than the object. But these breakable platforms, they exactly line up. But what happens is, do a little example. If we have, I'll just use the character actually. If we drag in the character, you can see that the character has a little ball at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're, let me turn off these gizmos. Oh, I need to, all right, maybe I won't use the character. I'll just use a sphere. Okay, so you're sliding along the ground, right? Technically, because of the way that collisions work in Unity, in order to like quote unquote be on the ground, the collider for the sphere needs to be intersecting with the collider for the ground, which means that the sphere is technically inside the ground slightly. And what happens is, as you're sliding along the ground, you're like constantly being slightly repositioned above the ground, right? Because it doesn't want two objects to be inside of each other. But when you go from this tile to this other tile, if you were below the top of this tile, that means that when you hit this second one, all of a sudden you're actually hitting it at that corner. And that is a very different collision than if you were just like sliding along it on the top. So what happens is you hit the corner and then you pop up. And to fix that in Unity is like a whole other issue. I kind of know how to fix it, but I would basically have to turn the character into a race car. It's a long story.
That's definitely an interesting way to fix it.
It would work. PogoChamp 3, the character is a race car.
Holy. Like by default, not a power up?
No, I mean just implement it as a race car. It's still a guy on a pogo stick.
Oh.
Basically, in driving games, a lot of the time the wheels are fake, and so they're just like they don't have a physical collision to them. They just detect the ground, and the actual car is like floating above the ground somewhere. So if I did that, then I could have the character like technically be floating above the ground, and therefore it wouldn't clip into the ground when you go over a corner like that, because it would actually be up here and I would just be detecting the ground below it. But that's a PogoChamp 2 problem. Or
You mean
solution.
3?
Three.
Whatever.
Yeah. There can't be a PogoChamp 2. There can only be a 3.
No, Goat Simulator already did that.
Really?
Yeah, they went from Goat Simulator 1 to Goat Simulator 3.
Okay. So I guess
You gotta go one step ahead.
while we're on a score level, can you adjust the score required for some of these easily?
This is not a score level.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
we were on
I can go back.
T-ball.
Let's.
Or whichever.
Yeah, so score levels have a scoreboard, and I don't remember if the scoreboards are all implemented the same way. Probably not. Let's see. Scoreboard lights, canvas. Conditional goal zone, no. Score. Oh no, that's a different score. That's your timer score. Scoreboard light controller. This I think just controls the lights. This just moves the lights, update, animate flash, start animating, spiral, animate flash. Yeah, that's just for the lights. Text. Oh, okay. It's all the way inside scoreboard canvas text. It's the thing that controls the actual scoreboard. Peg scoreboard. So this, like many other things, is a conditional goal zone condition. Has some sort of score. Add score. Gives the different scores. And does this doesn't have any specific requirement exposed. Maybe the goal zone is the thing that controls it. No. These just, because that thing's inactivatable.
You know, for better or worse, you've kind of created a game where there's variety in ways that doesn't really apply except outside of a handful of levels. So it's like,
Yeah. See, this is the reason that a level editor in game doesn't make any sense, is because of all of the like crazy one-offs. It's also made the game a lot of fun to make because I can just make something that exists for only one level and not care how broken or confusing it is because I can just never look at that level again. It
Yeah, but
doesn't
then
like
we have to deal with
compound.
trying to get a world record in it.
Well, yeah, but that's not
No.
my problem.
Yeah, exactly.
On score changed. Does this get
Plus, if it's broken and confusing, that's even better because that makes it more fun.
Skee ball scoreboard. Where is this? Skee ball scoreboard. Oh. Oh wait, you're right. That's not in this level because this is not that level. That's why it doesn't have a skee ball scoreboard. Yeah, so skee ball has a specific required points value exposed. Looks like 58. So if we look for score panel. No, that's inside the level state manager. Scoreboard. Skee ball scoreboard. So here, yeah, there's a required points value, so we could change that to 1,000 points. And then does this update? Yeah. So for skee ball, it's trivial to change. For jackpot, looks like it's more annoying.
Could you change the amount of score that each thing gives, like each of the holes?
Let's see. Click on the hole. Ball hole. Seems like a good name. Trigger. Skee ball hole trigger. Points. Yeah, so those are all exposed, easily accessible.
Yeah, I would imagine for this level, you probably just remove the backboard and you take away a bunch of the like things that can save you on this,
Yeah,
and
and
you
we'd
Remove the
probably
increase the
ball.
move
score.
the holes around and
Yeah.
put this over here or whatever. Yeah, that's a decent way to do that. Funny thing, the hole is a circle inside of a square. So when you move it, there's a missing square because reasons. Video games are hard.
All right, so the last two things I have are kind of complicated,
Sure.
and one of them would make it would make making levels harder easier, if that makes sense. So, is there a way to add a button that is timed? So you have to hit the button, and then you have a certain amount of time to get into the goal, and then the button resets if you don't get there in time.
There isn't currently because I don't think there are any buttons that need to be or that can even deactivate. There might have been one at some point, but I don't think any of the current buttons even have a real concept of deactivating once they've been activated. Um, let
Sure. I
me.
mean, well, so a button should have a state, right? And the state is that it's either been activated or it hasn't.
Right,
So I'm assuming that you would create a new button object, and it would have some sort of like timer
right,
trait, and then it would just swap the activated status if the timer trait
right.
runs
But
out.
there are issues around goal zones and replays that might be problematic for that. You could do it. There just isn't anything implemented right now for it. It's it's like less complicated than implementing like the Bulls state machine. So you could definitely do it. Um, just as it is right now, I don't think there's a good way to. Um,
I mean, the buttons are always connected to the goal as well. So like these, they open doors, but do they have to be connected to the goal?
No, they don't have to be.
Okay. So in this case, you don't have to necessarily make it a timer for the goal, but you can make it a timer to get through a door. And then does that still cause issues with the replay system?
Potentially. Buttons are there's a few different kinds of button just because buttons were like one of the first things I implemented for conditional uh, goal zones, and then over the course of the game, the way that that system was implemented uh, like changed a lot. So like you
Mhm.
can see here, this uses replay activatable recorded object, which is marked as deprecated because there's a new thing called replay arbitrary value tracking recorded object, which is what you would need to use with like a new kind of button. I could implement a new kind of button for you that can be turned off, and you could, can be turned off either by a timer or something else. Um, but just as it is right now, there isn't anything that would work for that yet.
Yeah, I think timed buttons are just a simple way of making something just intrinsically harder without having to add objects or do like with this level, if you were going to make a hard version of this level, there's not a lot that you can really do.
Hmm.
Um, you might be able to do something tricky by extending the level and then making the buttons timed, and then you have to get through the door very fast. So the level's length is extended by quite a bit, but um, otherwise, I'm not really sure how you would actually make this level harder.
You just make the doors real small, and then all of a sudden, the level is also tight squeeze.
I guess you could technically put the buttons on the ceiling, but
Yeah, put the
You put
buttons on the
buttons
wall, make the door real small, put the door up over here.
and have it timed.
Yeah.
yeah, let's also do that. Time it.
Huge.
Um,
Okay, I have a question about like the button. You said there's different kinds of buttons. Is there? I don't remember if I actually asked this or if I was just wondering about it, but um, is there a way to make like the button not like a physical thing, but when you touch it, still activate? You're sliding on the floor and you just like don't physically interact with the button, but like it still
Yeah,
activates when
you
you
would
touch it.
so buttons, some of the buttons, not all of them, have some of them all of them have triggers, right? A trigger is an area that registers like this something collided with me event. But then colliders are like physical objects that have space and prevent things from going inside of them. Um, so some of the buttons are, uh, all of the buttons have triggers, and some of them also have colliders. So you can see that this button has, on its base, it has this mesh collider that is convex and not a trigger. So if you just either turn this into a trigger or turn off the collider, then the base of this button no longer has a physical presence in the world, and it will still function as a button. You can activate it, but it won't have the like you won't be able to bump into it. Um, this second part, which so we turned off the collider on the base, but this actual button part you can see uses a trigger collider instead. Um, So you would just leave that as is, and you can still touch this part without bumping into this part. Um, push it to the push it to the limit two, uh, or push it to colon the limit uses buttons that don't have the collider on them, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Yeah, because I was thinking for like what's it called? Is it point and shoot? The one that's like a gigantic jump.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like putting a button on the side of each of the buildings that you have to hit.
Can you go to that level, by the way, just so we can explain that a little bit more? Because we were
Yeah,
talking about this in a voice call the other night.
point and do you know the number? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So those two buildings would have buttons on both sides that face the goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
The side that
Um,
would face the goal.
If you could just like bump off the button, I feel like it would just be like you'd either have to make the button enormous, and that would make it like way easier technically, um, or you have to find a way to make it like not have collision in just the trigger.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
yeah,
you
you
would
can
just
just stick a button on. And-
set that to 90. And then, yeah, you could just come in here and turn off the collider on the base, and then it'll just work. You would also, right, this goal zone is not conditional yet. So you would have to come in here and you would probably just come in here and do a conditional goal. And you would just replace the old goal zone, which is 38, 38, 38, then at this position, copy that position, come to the new conditional goal zone, paste that position, and then delete the old one, put the new one. Oh, this. And then if you wanted to scale it up, I'm assuming you guys don't want it as big as it was before. Um, yeah, and
I
then
don't know. Maybe we just put the goal on top of that taller
Yeah, but you
building.
could put it on top of the big building. Well, maybe not all the way. I don't know if I think I tried once to get up there and I couldn't do it after like 5 tries. Um, I think you'd have to like land back on the building and get a bunch of height.
no,
Yeah, just put the button on the smaller one, put the goal on top of the larger one. There you go. Ninja.
yeah. That's one of the things about this game is that from an early time when I was working on it, I was like, it's pretty easy to make levels arbitrarily difficult. Like they can just be infinitely hard. It's so trivial.
Yeah, well, on Tightrope, all you had to do was delete one object, and the level is like 10 times harder.
Right, exactly.
I only had one other question, and I think this is probably the one that, I don't know that we have time to go into this, but let's say we've made a level.
Mhm.
How do we navigate to it from the menu in game outside of the editor?
Yeah, so that's a matter of that's something that we'd have to decide on. My instinct was to just put some other option in the main menu somewhere. Um, so I would
That you
probably,
unlock after you've beaten survival mode?
uh, or after you have all the rainbow gems or something.
Yeah, you could
Um,
put it in like
so
in the
either
credits.
either like a fourth panel here or like a special button somewhere that changes, just delete daily challenge or whatever. Um, yeah, so either there or just like play and then like play psycho mode levels or something. Um, and that's how you would get to him. I think we would also, you know how I have a level order object that I've been using all the time? So there's
Mhm.
this level order config, but there's also demo level order config, which is a separate set of levels that is just the demo levels, right? And it has like this, they're like not in the same order. There's a couple extras to like preview some features, and there's like this extra demo, end of demo level. So I think we would make a third one of these, which is very easy to do. And then we would put all the ninja levels in that, and that makes it easy to separate them out and to like not have weird issues with the way that the levels are done in the level select and stuff like that. Um, and I could even theoretically let you load into a version of the level select that used the alternate level order config for the ninja levels. Um, but for now, I
And there
would
doesn't.
go ahead.
Sorry. Good. Well, I was just going to say that it doesn't even necessarily need to be a reflective 101
Hmm.
of the original 101. We could add in even more than that or less or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, so that's why keeping it separate and having like a different menu item, I think, would be ideal for that.
We
Well,
could
I mean,
bring
you know,
back Flubber.
the reason that I am saying that it would be a different number other than 101 is because I'm still thinking about level navigation in the main levels being something that you visually see the guy like bounce between those circles, right? So
Hmm.
if it's more than 101 or less than 101, what visually has to change for that? Like, how does it end up looking?
Oh, it would just be a menu.
Okay.
It would, it'd be like the replays menu or something. Um, like you would just pick them from a list of levels. You wouldn't have the like physicality of the level select.
Gotcha. It's on you, Minnie. That's everything from me.
I don't know. I do have a question. So like the end of the demo, you put in like the star times as like 999, 998, and whatever.
Oh yeah, that's just for levels that aren't levels. So end of demo is this.
Yeah.
So the 999 is a special. This is like a special flag that I use to say like this is not a real level. Ignore me.
Like I'm wondering like so does it have to have like a start time? Is there no way to have
Um,
it
it
edit?
it doesn't have to, but if I were to like delete these, then I get this error up at the top. It says incorrect start times. End of demo. 2 star, 0,
I
three
don't know.
star, 999. But these like don't show up anywhere.
Yeah. I don't know what else.
Cool. Let's see what I have in my notes. Let's see. Went over some of that stuff. Did a little bit on power-ups. Uh, can get into replays. Let's see if there's other stuff. Uh, let's see. Talked about scoreboards, talked about the special stuff. Let's take a look at console gaming. Oops. Console gaming, I don't even really remember how this works. I'm guessing these are triggers. Some sort of box DDR triangle button. Some sort of special button. Yeah, this is just like purely a one-off weirdo thing. If you wanted to change the order of the inputs,
I mean, I was just thinking that we just make it the track for Through the Fire and Flames, honestly.
yeah, so if you were gonna do that, button order,
Throw that on the screen.
yeah. I mean, that would be hilarious because it would take fucking an hour and a half. Yeah, so in that case, you would have to come in here and modify this, but again, any modifications that you do would reflect on the older version, so you need to like expose this as a serialized field and then modify it in the level that you're dealing with, or have like some other flag that you use. Uh, I can help you with that if it comes to that. Uh, So that's, yeah, I mean, for tons and tons of levels, it's a matter of you get into the level, you find the object that looks like it might own the thing, and then you see if it has like its own weird script um, that looks like it controls how it works. Um, there's a lot of one-off logic. All right. For replays, I'm going to get into it a little bit. It probably isn't super relevant to you guys, but if I get into it, then this will be recorded and we'll have that information available somewhere.
Yeah.
So the way that replays are done is every like 30 seconds for things that move, um, their position is recorded and their rotation. And then I build up a big list of all of those positions, rotations, and times. And then when we're playing the replay, I just interpolate between the positions and the times. So if I have a record at 1 second and a record at 3 seconds, which is much slower than it would be, and we're currently at 2.5 seconds, then the character's position and rotation would be, mostly towards that 3-second point, but with a little bit of influence from that 1-second point. The way that that is done for most objects that move is, we get to facade. So that's the wrong wall. Okay. So each of these blocks uses replay additional recorded object. This is a script that you can attach to any object that needs to just move and be recorded in a replay. It will, like once you add this script and give it a UUID, that object will work in replays. It will have its positions recorded and saved and uploaded and everything. One thing that you should do for objects like that is physical objects in Unity that have like physics associated with them. So things that have weight and mass and are affected by gravity and things like that have rigid bodies. Right, so this has mass and drag and angular drag and can be affected by gravity. So anything that will fall or that when you bump into it, you'd like knock it away. Any of those things will have a rigid body. And you want to add those rigid bodies to this destroy these during replays list. Because if you don't, what will happen is the object will be positioned by the replay system, but then gravity will affect it. And so it'll like try to fall. And that ends up making things really weird. So there's this list of things. You can just like add as many elements to this list as you want. There are reasons that it's a configurable list because there are a lot of different objects that can be moved around and a lot of different things that they might need to have disabled while replays are playing. But for the simplest case, you want to just remove the rigid body and add replay additional recorded object. Now, when you get to more complicated objects, there are a couple of other replay scripts that you would attach. Is this? So there's replay activatable recorded object, which is like for, if we go to the One Ring, activatables, they don't have physical, like they aren't affected by gravity or anything, right? But they do something in the replay they need to activate. So this replay activatable recorded object is like the simplest version of an object that can activate and that activation is recorded in a replay. Um, it's only for things that can turn on and not turn off, and it's generally like the older style of replay activation recording that I have in the project. In general, you shouldn't use it, but if you're using just like the existing ring or something, it's fine if you use it. For newer objects like that button that we talked about that can has a timer associated with it, this would not work because it only turns on and can never turn off. If we come in here, let's see, the relevant parts are basically just this record activation gets called by whatever object owns. So you can see that this ring has this replay activatable recorded object script, and it also has this ring trigger script. The ring trigger script is the thing that actually controls or like detects the collisions, and then in here in the ring trigger script, right, when something enters its trigger, it plays its effects, blah blah blah, and it also records its activation. And then the replay activatable recorded object is the thing that saves that in the replay system and can help with replaying the state when it comes when you're watching a replay. The most up-to-date version of the replay objects are replay arbitrary value tracking recorded objects. These allow you to basically say, hey, something happened and my internal state changed to this new value at this specific time in the replay. So for like the bull car, it has its idle state, it has its fighting state, it has its like taunt thing where it shoots fire and like moves its head, and then it charges, and then it can die, right? And each of those states are recorded in the replay because they don't happen at specific times. They happen based on, which direction it's looking and things like that. So when the bull car's state changes, it says, hey, my replay arbitrary value tracking object, just so you know, my new state value is this value. And so that's how I can recreate the animations and stuff that the bull is doing as it's fighting you. The bull would also have the replay arbitrary or the replay additional recorded object thing to record its position in space. So multiple objects can have multiple types of replay tracking script attached to them for reasons. Replays are weird. They work surprisingly well. They work surprisingly seamlessly if you sort of know what you're dealing with. And if you use other existing things as a guide for them. So in most cases, you'll be able to get by with like copy pasting from existing levels. But there will be certain situations potentially where basically you'll need to ask me for help about how to get a replay working properly. But that's more or less it. Power-ups are also integrated into the replay system. They, again, quote unquote, should just work. If you create new power-ups, I think that will work fine in replays. as long as you remember how we had those like warnings about, when if we go back to flamethrower power up or something, um, if I duplicate this, uh, how when I gave it a unique ID, it said this has not been added to the power up library and will not be shown in replays. If you then go to the power up library and just make sure to add that in, then it will work in the replays and you'll be good to go. So there are warnings in place to like make sure that certain things that are pretty easy to overlook will not be overlooked, and it's just a matter of sort of paying attention to those. Yeah. Cannons also have like multiple states. They're a simpler kind of object than the bull car. Right, so cannons have a cannon controller and a replay value tracking recorded object. We didn't talk about cannons, but each cannon has its own configurable output velocity, which is generally the only value that you're going to want to change, just output velocity and probably the rotation of the cannon, right? And you can just rotate that however you want using the Unity editor. And this cannon controller has its, right, when it's phase, right, it has an empty phase, a loading phase, a loaded phase, and a shooting phase. Empty when you're not in it, loading while you're being snapped to the anchor point of it, loaded when you're ready to shoot, and shooting when you're being shot out, and then it returns back to empty. Whenever that phase changes, it records its phase for replays, which just says, hey, replay value tracking recorded object, record that my new phase is whatever value. Yeah, it's a lot, but it works great. Okay, cool. I think that's enough on replays.
Um, I was wondering about the cannons. Like, could you make them constantly rotate so that you had to like time a shot
Sure.
or something?
Yeah. Just spinner, angles per second, 30.
That is actually a really good idea.
Yeah, because I was thinking of that one Club Penguin mini game with like the puffles and the cannons that are like spinning around.
You mean like barrels from Donkey Kong Country?
The fuck is a Donkey Kong Country?
Danky Kang?
It's not
Shiny, can we
officially
ban this guy?
recognized. It's not recognized by the UN, so it's not a real country.
Danky Kang. So I accidentally. So when you're dealing with rotations, just so that you know, so you can see, right, the green axis is the y-axis, right? The blue is the z, and the x is, or then the red is the x, right? When you're dealing with a rotation, the rotation is along the axis. So if, for example, you set the y rotation to be like 90, this is, I think, I forget if this is, or in this case, it's angles per second. And if it's along y, that means it will spin along the y-axis, which means like this.
It'll just twist in place.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
don't do that if you're trying to make the cannon spin, because that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for, what are we looking for? That's probably the way to do this is to actually delete this. We make a empty parent that owns the cannon that is there, and then we spin that along its y. 180. And that way, the cannon will spin.
And are you invincible when you're in the cannon?
Yes.
So could you, in theory, have the cannon be like right pressed up against a wall, and then as it twists through the wall, go through the wall?
Let's try it.
Or would you just die because you're technically in the wall when you get out?
I do not remember. There is a bug from a very long time ago that let you, where you clipped into, it was on Long Jumper. There wasn't a front panel on one of the conveyor belts, and you could clip halfway into the conveyor belt. It's a great bug. Um, so the character doesn't. The only death trigger on the character is on their head. So theoretically, I'm through the wall there. Yeah. You can clip
There's
through
your
walls that
one-way.
way.
There's your one-way
Yeah, it's a one-way wall.
gate, Jarvis. You just make like a million cannons pointing down through the floor.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So if so, here's the thing about rotating cannons and other objects. Things will start moving when you load into the level, unless they're specifically told not to. So, like this, these spinning cannons will spin before you start moving, and that's something to. You can either say, "I don't care about that," which is fine. I respect not caring about it. There are certain things that you don't have to care about. But if they're world record relevant, then that can be frustrating because it means you have to like time your start. There are ways to make it so that certain objects like don't start moving until you do. In general, there isn't like a universal solution to that. It's been one-offs. So if you wanted spinning cannons that only started spinning when the player started moving, I can help you implement that. It should be, relatively straightforward, but there just isn't a system for that yet.
I think the rotating cannon thing actually opens up a lot of possibilities I didn't think about before. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a great
Think about
idea.
other stuff that you can like
Rotating
move
cannons
around.
is the first good idea for a mechanic that I've heard in a long time. Most of the mechanic ideas are either things I've already tried or bad.
I don't even know. I mean, there is that moving cannon. How do you do that in
Target practice?
Yes.
Uh,
How does
it's
that work?
it's a one-off. It only exists in target practice. Yeah, that's a great example of a mechanic that I could only make because I can put stuff in levels and then not give a shit about it for the rest of the game. Uh, target practice. So this is the drivable cannon, drivable telescoping cannon script. And it, how it looks like it has this physical track. It's not real. There's an X minimum limit and an X maximum limit, which like if I set these to -10 and like 200, then you get stopped right there, or you can go like all the way over here. Right? It has nothing to do with the physicality. Um, Yeah, purely just a one-off thing. Theoretically, you could put this in other levels, but it's not, it's like limited to a specific line. Um, but you could do it. Wow, this is so fucked up if you drive it backwards. I had no idea. Nobody's ever driven this backwards before. It's it ignores your camera orientation.
I mean, you would literally have to not be looking where you're shooting. So
Yeah. So this is right. This is still right. That's great.
I don't know. I feel like it'd be weirder if it suddenly swapped when you turn your camera too far.
It kind of would be.
Yeah. You could do like a tiny hole in the wall, and the hole. Oh, is there anything in the game that like immediately kills you when you touch it other than water?
Oh yeah. So there's
Lasers.
lasers.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
there's
Lasers. Forgot about this.
so a lot of levels, and some levels don't, and that's usually a source of bugs. A lot of levels have this thing, which is just level kill boundary, which is um, just a box around the level between two, like, this it's hard to see on this level, but there's level kill boundary is just a box that if you go outside of the box, you die. And the box is defined by these two corners. Oops, right, that top right corner and this bottom left corner. You can just imagine a rectangle. It's supposed to render a rectangle, but
I
oh,
don't
I
think
turned
there's
off the
one on
gizmos.
Chopper.
Yeah, there probably isn't one on Chopper.
Wait, what
But
was that level? Was it skee
this,
ball that I just fell through the floor forever
yeah,
for?
yeah. That if you fall through the floor, that's because I forgot to put a level kill boundary in that level.
Uh,
And
Also,
also the walls are not solid. The walls are
yeah.
not solid on a lot of levels. Like this is not a solid wall because you're not supposed to get here.
Yeah.
This is just what you
There's I
see
just
when you look
remember
through a wall.
one level that has those walls is like has them solid. I can't remember which one. Cause like I remember looking down and there was like 50 ragdolls just piled up at the bottom. Cause I had ragdolls on and I was testing something.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Um,
funny.
so that will instant kill you. There's also in what is it? Wall jumper. Is wall jumper really this late? The level that's just a single wall jump. Off the
Oh, I feel like
wall. Off
60.
the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, this evil grid
Yes.
is
Forgot about that.
also a kill trigger.
Isn't
Is
there
this
one
the
on
same?
Gotta Go Fast or something?
Yeah, is this
Yeah,
that same
there's
grid?
there's another one on Gotta Go Fast.
Yeah.
And so
So
this is implemented well. This is good for you guys. So this cube is it has a box collider that is a trigger, right? So it doesn't have a physical presence, but you can still touch it. And it is in the layer death trigger. So layers are like a special thing in Unity that you can put your objects on certain collision layers, and like there's a whole matrix of like what collision layers interact with what other objects. But death trigger is a special one that I use for this is a trigger, and if the character touches it, the character dies, and that's it. So you can apply that to any object. So if you came in here and you said 3D object, I'm going to make a cylinder and I'm going to put it over here and it's just going to look like this. I'm going to get down. Just going to put it right here. And then if I come in here and I set it to is trigger and I set the layer to
11.
death trigger, then if I jump into that, it kills me. And just to prove that it wasn't because I hit my head, there I go, I hit my head on it again. Just to prove that it wasn't because I hit my head, we can lower that and I'll just roll into it. Yeah. So you can make stuff that instant kills you just by using the death trigger layer.
Nice. We're gonna make a minefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Make a,
Though if
a
you had a
map at the
minefield
beginning.
and they didn't cause your character to explode away when they ragdolled, it'd be pretty boring.
Oh, another thing. There, I don't think there's any level where you start with the power up already. You have to like jump into it, right? Is that just because, or is will it break if you like put the power up on the spawn?
I don't actually know if it'll break. I just always thought it was funny. So yeah, this in the wall and gotta go fast is trigger, death trigger, but then it's a special death wall that moves at a specific speed and gets faster over time and stuff. Um, we can try putting a power up on top of you. Oops, not level state manager.
Oh wait, I just had like the greatest idea ever for the fighting level. We can just force you to start as the ball, and there's a door at the very very bottom that's just like you can't fit in with the ball, but you could fit in if you literally any other power up, and then the power up's all the way at the top. You should do that. Then we have to worry about one way gates and stuff. So
Looks
I don't
like
know.
it
Can you
gave.
change the size of the ball without doing anything? You
Looks like if you just put the power up at the spawn, it works.
Oh, nice.
And it gives it to you before the level starts, which is cool.
Accidentally, intelligently implemented.
This game is the best.
The best way.
Is the best implemented. I'm an excellent programmer. Okay.
Of course. Well, they made the greatest game of the 21st
Yeah, I
century.
mean, you got something to work without even trying,
Game
or
of the
even knowing that it was
century
eventually.
of the millennium. You were talking about making the ball a different size. That's another one of
Yeah.
those. You need to go in and create a new power up.
Mm.
But if we weren't going to do that, I think you could probably just come in here and turn it. If we wanted to reuse the old power up and break everything.
Oh, you could make it what's it called? Oblong spheroid, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Is that like
We can make it.
does it control really weird like that?
Do you want it to be that?
It's like a disc. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. Would you still roll, or like would you not have enough force to
You probably still roll. What's spin to win? No, that's not a good one for this.
Maxigolf.
Maxi Golf, of course. The best level. Looking real stupid. Maybe did I change the right one?
Holy.
Holy.
This doesn't seem like it's working.
Yeah.
It looks like it's working perfectly. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I know what's wrong. So, hamster. The collider is
Unfortunately,
still a sphere.
I have to head out, but this was cool. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for hanging out.
Yep. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Bye. So yeah, the problem with that was that the collider was still a sphere,
Yeah.
but the physical shape didn't change. So if I make it a capsule so that it looks more accurate, then
Oh, there we go. See, this could be like, because yeah, you push yourself up off the ground.
yeah, I did.
And you can
There's a
basically
different
jump.
power up that I thought about making that was kind of like this, but decided against it.
This is like a very floaty getting over it hammer.
Pretty much. Uh, Skewer power up. That's the.
You Oh my god. I feel like it would work like pretty well if you didn't it has the same problem with the what's it called? The flamethrower one where like your
Yeah.
orientation.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember when I put the paddle on, but originally there wasn't going to be that paddle at the top.
Uh, yeah. Oh, a double-sided like if you had a pogo stick on both sides, so you were like double-ended.
Yeah, I thought
That'd be
about it. I thought
uh,
about putting a pogo stick on your head. Oh, right, that's why this. Because when it's like this, you can't flip over. Yeah, there's a reason this power up didn't make it into the game.
the jetpack did.
Yeah, jetpack's a great idea.
It would be so much better if it didn't take 4 hours to stop.
It's already faster to stop than it is to start. Physics. Learn
Yeah, but
gravity.
you can jump to start. You can't
Yeah, that's true.
jump in the air. That's literally my only gripe with it. I can't.
It doesn't have air brakes. You don't have
Yeah.
wings. Cool. Anything else you want me to mess around with?
Let me think.
Um,
Oh, fans.
fan club.
Um,
There are too many mechanics in this game. Can't
Yeah.
even remember them all.
I don't even know. I can't even think of a level.
Fan
Oh,
club.
101 has
blown
fans.
up. I'm not gonna go to 101. Come on.
Blown up, yeah.
So fans are a little goofy um, because some of them, there's like individual fans that have like a fan hitbox. But then there are other fans that are kind of fake. Uh, so like this big fan has its own fan air column. Um, and you can adjust the height of the air column and how fast it makes you go with these two values, and it'll like automatically resize. Um, but then there are things like this big, grid of fans, and these are just visual. because having them have their own fan hitboxes would be stupid and a waste of processing power. So these just have um, like a big square that is the fan hitbox. So these use this is just a mostly empty object that has like particles in it, and it has this industrial fan script which adjusts the height of the fan hitbox. So if we go into the project and actually start running it, you can see that that green box got much taller, and that's based on the settings here. I don't know if it will change if yeah, if I modify it in game, it doesn't update in real time. I think it only updates at the beginning of the level. So if we come in here and if I were to change the target velocity to like 20, then you can see that it's much taller as compared to like this one, where the target velocity is only 8. So that'll scale everything appropriately. Like, see the particles only go up to the edge of the box, but here they go much higher and much faster. So all of that should be relatively easy to manage. And if you want something where like the velocity you get from the fan is the same, but it can push you much higher, you can use this air column height modifier. And that should let you make the column of air really tall, but um, you don't need to make it like blast you super fast. Um, so you can do that to have like a gentle rise up.
Hmm. It'd be pretty useful for like an elevator or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I'd probably use it on close quarters.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, air column modifier 4. Yep.
Yeah.
So for letting you guys actually mess around with this, I was thinking I would just upload a copy of the game source, um, probably on like a GitLab type situation,
Hmm.
um, and give you guys access. I don't know if there's anything that I want to strip out of the code that I give you. Um, there's like some stuff related to Steam leaderboards and things that would maybe be good to strip out just because it makes hacking a little bit easy, but
Yeah.
also if you hack, fuck you guys, I'll just ban you or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, hacking Steam leaderboards is already very easy, so if you were
Yeah.
motivated, you could. Um, yeah,
Oh.
the main thing is like because you would have access to the game, you could just like go into level 1 and move the goal zone like a half a meter closer, and then like, oh, I got a new world record. Um,
Hmm.
so that's like a little bit annoying. Um,
Yeah.
so I could strip Steam out of the
Yeah.
build I
I
give
think
you.
that honestly just be better just in case someone like accidentally does something.
Yeah. Um, so that's the main thing. And there's the question of like, do I strip it out by deleting the code in the version I give you, or do I just like turn off the stuff? I guess it's probably better to delete it all just to be thorough.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah, and then
you're just giving it to us, right? You're not making it like public.
yeah, just you guys for now, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think anyone's gonna be cheating
yeah,
because we all know each other pretty well.
yeah. I don't think so either. It's mostly the accidentally doing it and
Yeah, there's that. I
you know
think
the
that for that
the off
reason,
chance.
you should probably.
Yeah, and then if it's done with like GitLab and Git, and if it's like technically the same project, sharing files should be relatively easy, and tracking changes should be relatively easy. So theoretically, I could just like copy paste files from the version that you guys are messing with into the main project as needed and figure it out from there. I guess the other thing I would need to do is give you guys a way to access your levels from like the main menu or something,
Mhm.
but that's also not urgent. You can get in and start messing around uh, before that
Yeah.
because there's
Before we actually like have, because like I feel like for the start we're literally just gonna be playing around with stuff and not making like actual levels
yeah,
yet.
yeah. Yeah,
So
you won't need an actual level picker or anything until you've got at least
I was thinking
30 levels or something.
maybe if we do like a mirror, like a dark world version of all the levels, and we do all 101 of them, you could have like a switch you turn on in the main menu
Yeah,
um, that makes it a dark world one or
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
That I think that would work
Yeah, that
great.
sort of thing would be good. You can have an alternate version of the thing about doing all 101 levels is you actually need an alternate version of the level select, right? Because the level select is a level.
Uh,
That's I guess that's something I didn't talk about is there's the level select that is the visual one that you navigate around on that has all the level entry points and stuff. But then there's a version of this that is the playable one, which looks the same, but is the one that you actually play on. So
hmm.
good luck turning this one into a harder level. I don't know what you would want to do on that. Just lasers or something.
Yeah, put back all the stuff that made it lag, and then double it.
Hey,
Like, destroy the PC.
yeah. Just put 10 of this crashing spaceship.
Yeah, you could use like space debris, like
Yeah, that would suck.
no, yeah.
It's a great idea. That would suck. um,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. Also, is that green stuff supposed to be flubber juice in the
Uh,
pipes?
in here? Oh, in the
In
pipes.
the like back in the what
Yeah,
is it?
that's like the
Yeah,
pogo juice. Good, good pogo juice. You know,
the good
fuel.
pogo
I don't
juice.
know. It's in the when the meter charges up, it's green.
That's true. I didn't think about that before.
It's just the physical version of the meter charging up because these are pogo sticks. I don't know if you noticed. These are just
Yeah,
pogo
that does
sticks
make sense.
mounted to the outside of the giant pogo stick.
It's crazy that they're all getting rainbow jumps perfectly every time.
Yeah, I mean they're experts.
It's true. There's a reason they're that big. They leveled up.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know what else. I guess actually there's one thing that I still don't understand like at all.
Hmm.
And that's why half the time when you have a lot of speed and you jump on a conveyor, it eats like all of your jump power. Like it's not even just like I can't move forward at the same speed. I like jump like 2 feet after falling like 50 feet.
Uh,
It usually happens when you like land against the conveyor. So like if it's pushing towards you.
yeah. Um, how to explain? You're talking about on like it's the one where you jump downhill.
Yeah, that one. Oh, where is it?
Ramp? No, not ramp it up. It's before ramp it up, right? No.
I can't
Get me
remember the name.
down. Get me
Get me
down.
down. Yeah, because like the last jump is like super like
You're talking
lit.
about you're talking about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, like you jump forward and then you like barely move.
Um,
And then like when you just jump straight up, you move like way.
yeah. So I think the issue with this one is that intuitively you feel like you're so you get the maximum jump height when you land perpendicularly to a surface, right? When you land like
Yeah.
this. Um, in your instinct in this one is to land sort of like this, right? To oppose the arrows, right? You land sort of like that. But if you think about it, that's landing at like this angle, and that angle gives really bad um, bonus height. Right? So you actually want to sort of land facing forward because that's actually perpendicular to the ramp. I think that's what you're describing,
Yeah, I think so. Like,
right? Because on flat ground, you typically want to jump sort of into this angle, right?
yeah,
Because that's how you get the good pivot or the good rotation. But when you do it here, it's bad because you're actually landing at like a much more extreme angle than you think. And when you land at those angles, you get the shitty jump. I would double check it by recording a replay where it happens. And you know, if it's not on this level specifically, then it's potentially a different issue because this is the level where the conveyor is slanted, so it has that extra wrinkle. But if it happens on levels where the conveyor isn't slanted,
I mean,
that's something.
oh well, I was gonna
But
say quicksand, but that's also slanted.
yeah, I think it's just the slants mostly, and slants are weird generally.
Yeah,
But I would, if it happens, record a replay and then watch it back. And remember, you can record a replay where you fail, and then once you succeed, you can come on. Once you succeed, you can hit save replay and then view replay, and you can watch all of them at once. So yeah, if it happens, save your replay and then watch back your replay and take into account whether you're aligned with the surface that you're landing on. And let me know. It might be bugged. I mean, conveyor belts are super janky, and like the way that
yeah.
they're implemented is also super janky.
You're like
So
the thing I understand the least. Even though they're like probably the most like abundant gimmick in a level, honestly. I
yeah,
think.
because of the way that I had to mess with Unity's physics system, the conveyor belts are super weird because like there's no natural friction for the character. because I needed to make the sliding work the way that I wanted it to, and using Unity's natural friction, what would happen is because the bottom of the character is a sphere, when you hit the ground, you would like spin out because that's what
Yeah.
happens when you have a sphere that like doesn't bounce instantly, or even when it does bounce, like if you have any friction at all, the sphere is going to rotate a lot. And
Yeah.
that would not work. So I had to turn off friction, so I had to implement fake friction. And then when I had to implement fake friction, I had to implement fake conveyor belt friction. So like when you land on a conveyor belt, it pretends that you're landing on a surface, or it pretends that you were moving at a speed such that the conveyor belt was actually stationary, but it scales your speed as if, yeah, it scales your speed as if the conveyor belt was stationary. So like if you're moving in opposition to the conveyor belt, you're effectively going faster than you were. But if you're moving in the same direction as the conveyor belt, you're effectively going slower than you were.
Yeah.
Physics, reference frames, it's a whole thing. It's a nightmare. This is why when you go from being on the conveyor belt to off the conveyor belt, there's like weird shit that happens.
Yeah, like conveyor boosting, I
Yeah,
imagine
conveyor
is
boosting
also
is because of that.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did notice like at the end of 100, if you land on the conveyor belt and you jump forward, you get way less power than if you just landed like on the floor. Um,
Mhm.
so, but it's like all the way at the end of the run, and it's scary to do and test.
Yeah. That that ending conveyor belt is the scariest part of the game.
Yeah,
This
I
thing.
get there. I think only once have I ever like gotten speed fast enough off the wall coming out of the water. That I jumped like straight backwards and I just didn't touch the conveyor belt at all.
Yeah. So the reason that this conveyor belt is kind of fucked up like that is because it's going in the same direction that you are.
Yeah.
So like effectively it makes your speed seem slower. Um, and that can be surprising and annoying. But I'm not gonna fix it.
You don't even have to touch it anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh yeah, the one thing that I forgot to show off was the 101, how you have how it gets rid of your character.
Oh yeah.
So I don't even remember.
Can the stick with no guy pick up power ups? Like could I have a rocket launcher on my stick? With no guy
Uh,
with it?
nope.
Hmm.
I think the problem is that there's no head anchor for the power up to go on. It might depend on the power up though.
Like the ball, I feel like. Would the ball work? Oh, I forgot it's like long now.
Did I just bounce off of it? I'm bouncing off of it. What the fuck? Let's try the diamond.
Hmm.
Yeah, it most of that stuff is it it might be. Let me just try one more thing. Something that actually has an effect. Nope.
Oh, that has the jetpack, but not in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, so the yeah, so the way that you get the crash test dummy or the player without the dummy is you just add in the dummy remover script, crash test dummy remover. You just attach it to, I guess, any object. And then at the beginning of the level, it looks for something that is Pogo Character Controller version 3. And if it finds it, if it's not null, then it finds the ragdoll and turns that off, and finds a bunch of other stuff and turns that off, and hides a bunch of stuff, and then changes some other stuff, adjusts the camera, I guess, and does some stuff related to replays. And so if we turn this off, then he's back.
I can be an astronaut all he wants.
Yeah.
And then die to the facade walls.
Yeah. Yep.
Could you? I mean, the dummy gets removed, but could you like add him back in somewhere else in the level where he would like still die if something fell on his head?
Not without doing a lot of work. Theoretically, yes, but it would be very messed up. Be very weird. I actually I don't know if having a second, or actually, if I just take character. So if I just make a second one of these guys and I turn, so if I just put him in, you'll actually control both.
Oh,
But I don't know what happens if one of them dies. Okay, yeah, and that locks you out of your controls. Now,
that'd be a cool level. You get like 3 different.
it would be very bad, but I mean, you could do it theoretically. I think if I turn this off, it won't move, but I don't think that it will work. It dropped a second pogo stick. Oh, okay. He did die when I bumped into him. But so I theoretically sort of you could sort of do it. Let's see. This is actually probably gonna not work because it's gonna could potentially find the wrong dummy. But get wrecked, loser.
It's like falling in slow motion.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal, but any of this is. I wouldn't recommend doing this.
I was thinking like basically doing like a defense level where you have to like protect your guy for like a minute.
Yeah,
Like, all
that like I understand how that could work, and it's kind of funny, but it's can be so broken.
yeah.
Cool. Anything else? I guess I'll try to get a build without the Steam integration done.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably have it done tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think I've asked every single possible question I can. I don't
Cool.
know if I think of anything.
Yeah,
guess I'll
how's
just
the
ask it later.
enthusiasm level? Are you more or less excited after seeing all of this.
Definitely more. I thought it'd be a lot harder, and I would literally just have to sit here and like I could add like a box maybe, and that would basically be it. But this is like a lot more doable than I thought. So
Nice.
yeah. But now I have to actually like think of good level ideas, and not just like make it. But now there's a giant wall.
Yeah. And being able to tweak the levels and then play them instantly is going to help with that a lot, I think. It
Yeah.
it makes it very clear when your idea is dumb and bad, when you can just make it in 5 minutes and then be like, oh, yeah, this sucks. I hate it.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Maybe the two buildings and the button is gonna like be horrible. Who knows?
Oh, it's definitely going to be horrible, but it
But is it
might
fun
be kind of
horrible?
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do wonder whether you guys are gonna find out like, oh, actually we should make this level easier. If like even to make ninja levels, you're gonna be like, actually the button should probably be a lot bigger. Like twice as big. Like
I
four
mean,
times as big.
I would agree. It has to be like, it has to be hard, but like not because it's bullshit and I need to get this perfect balance off this corner
Right.
hard. But like, if it's like, okay, the button is tiny and I have to aim perfectly at it, I feel like that. But if it's something like there's like a teeny tiny skinny pole in the middle of like an ocean and I have to land on the pole, but not like slide off of it in any way.
Yeah, tightrope, but you start in a cannon 500 meters from the from the
Yeah, and
tightrope.
you have to slide on your stick all the way to the end. Like it sounds fun until you actually have to beat it.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course, Mario Maker rules. You have to prove that you can beat a level before I'll accept it.
Yeah. Just make a few impossible levels in there. Just accidentally slipped in. Yeah. But I do like the idea of because I thought you never put the power-ups like directly on the player because it would be like they would instantly respawn again because you technically haven't started the level, and it would just be like an infinite loop of you picking it up and it respawning or something like that. Um but now you could lock yourself out of the goal by just having the wrong power up.
Yeah.
And then
And
you have to go
there
get the normal
are
one.
uh yeah, Maxi Golf is a just is a goal zone that requires you to have a power up, which is the thing
Yeah.
that yeah, goal zone condition power pickup script. That's a great script. Love it. But I think that only works for it'll do any power up. But
Uh,
theoretically, if you guys needed it, I or you could make a script that like requires you to have a specific power up, um, and then the goal zone activates. What are my cats doing? Cats are hunting each other. But no, I was just coming over here to see if replays work. Yeah, that's the one thing I. Oh, huh?
is it because you are a giant thing that's clipping you to the ground?
Because I fucked up hamster ball. Uh, this is not move. All right, that's why. Right. Mistakes. Thought I was going to be too high. Okay, yeah. Looks like it worked. It's a little bit, oops, it's a little bit messed up because it shows the power up before you start moving, because the replay starts slightly before you start moving. But that's fine,
Yeah.
not a problem.
I mean, in theory, that's what you see when you boot up the level anyways, right?
Well, it auto grabs it before you move, seemingly,
So
right?
yeah.
Which is still fine.
Oh, I actually have another question. The last
Sure.
question, I promise.
I mean, whatever.
When you pick up the ball, right, it like sticks to the floor kind of.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm guessing that's just so, like if you're clipped into the ground like 2 inches, you don't get like flung out at 400 miles an hour.
Uh, it's not even intentional.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the problem is actually that it like spawns you inside the floor, or like it spawns in the floor, and the way that the collision resolution happens uh, causes it to sort of make you stick.
hmm.
There's nothing specific that I do to prevent you, like make it keep you on the ground or anything. Um,
You're just so good at development that you didn't have to work on it. It just worked.
yeah, I mean it's kind of like weird and seems a little bit busted sometimes, but
Yeah. Um, I was thinking of something like it was touching the ceiling and you had to jump close enough to the ceiling that you'd like get hooked up and land on a platform up above that you wouldn't otherwise be able to
uh,
get to. Because otherwise you just like, I don't know, something. But I don't know, that could be cool. Because like the ninja levels I feel like are um like you do whatever tech you want. 'Cause that's like you're expected to know some stuff by then.
right.
Like conveyor boosts, I feel like, or I don't even know what else. I guess jumping out of the water as the fish, like where you're like halfway above.
Yeah, the fish super jump thing.
Yeah, like that kind of, or like a, I was thinking just triathlon is literally just make the ocean like 5 times longer, and you have to make like the god jump with the ball to make it to the other side.
Yeah, something like that. Uh, yeah, I mean, we'll see what you guys come up with. Like I
Yeah,
said, you can make the levels arbitrarily difficult, right? Triathlon, but there are 10 rings that you have to jump through, and they're increasingly small, and you have to do it on a jetpack.
I was thinking of for controlled fall, just making the rings like literally like insanely small, and you have to like drop through like pencil dive through each of them, or you'll die,
Yeah,
and like spread them out a little.
I actually think a controlled fall variant where you have to do wall jumps is actually super cool. That's a great idea.
The only problem that I have with like the wall jumps is like first of all you have to get over there,
Hmm.
and second of all jumping straight down will start giving you a lot of speed,
Yep.
and after like 3 jumps I feel you're gonna have way too much speed and you'll have to like slow yourself down,
Hmm.
and that's kind of lame that you have to stop just so that you don't like you can see where you're going.
Yeah, it'll be weird. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll figure it out.
if from this entire exercise what we discover is that like actually making hard PogoChamp levels isn't fun, that's a perfectly fine outcome for me. If you guys spend some time trying this and you're like, it turns out the difficulty was right before hard levels suck, then I'll just be like, yeah, that's awesome. Good for me.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't know like what I would like to make not just like clones of the levels, but like also like brand new things. I don't know if it will like replace like super basic stuff like level 1. Like I don't what would you do for a ninja level for that? Like
Add a bunch of lasers. The most naive answer.
I mean that would be actually kind of good. You just like blocked in front of you, you have to go like backwards through a giant maze.
Yeah.
Would work. But also I feel like placing that many lasers would take
There's
forever.
yeah, there's some I have some scripts that like help you place lasers. Um,
Ooh.
oops. I have like for a bunch of the repeated object type levels, I wrote some scripts that let you just place a bunch of things at once. Um, and for heist, I know that there's one for making that laser ring because I was not going to do that by hand.
Yeah, this seems like very tedious to make sure they're all perfectly spaced and angled and all that.
We're 78? No.
Heist is 80 something.
It was already open. That's why I couldn't see it. You found the secret text on top of heist, right?
Of course. I've been all over. I
Yeah, you've
literally
been
sat
everywhere.
in here like 20 minutes, literally just jumping up and down to see if I could hit the ceiling.
So, laser alarm, hallway, laser hole. Uh, okay, so there's this laser alarm positioner. That's good. That one makes it so that lasers like automatically scale to hit the walls so that you don't have to position these little black nubs on the walls in the right place. But there's another thing. Circle. Uh, at some point, I wrote a script that made this laser hole, but actually, well, if you're doing holes, there's actually a relatively easy way to make something like that. So if we were to come over here, what you can do, this is just like a tip for level editing in general, or 3D editing in general. So if we have, oops, if we create an empty child, and we call that anchor, and we say that this is going to be the center point of our circle, and then we make this laser thing a child of it, and we see, so the laser is, let's say, 1 meter from the center. This is it's rotated weirdly. I'm just gonna reset the rotation. Um, so if we say that the laser is 1 meter from the center to the side, right? So this is the center anchor. The laser's over here. What we can do is we can copy the anchor and then just rotate it along the z-axis by like 15 degrees, and then copy out or move out the laser into the parent. I gotta disable this behind it because it's confusing. And then if we can actually just do this. So we copy this, paste it here, and then we rotate this. Okay, so we have a laser that is a child of the anchor, and then we just rotate by 30 degrees, and then we copy it, and we paste it as a child, and then we take this anchor and we say plus 15 degrees. Now it's 45, and we copy it, and we paste it as a child. Like you can make that sort of rotation relatively easily. It is kind of annoying, and I swear I have a script for it, but I don't remember what it's called.
It's somewhere.
Yeah, but whatever. Oh, cool.
Okay. I know I said last question
No, keep
like
them
20
coming.
minutes ago,
I
but
figured this was gonna take at least like hours and hours. So
yeah. So levels where you just like 99 at the very end
Mhm.
when you ram into the glass cage and it just shatters.
Mhm.
Is that because like you're hitting the frame and it's moving and just because the frame moved, it shatters the glass? Is that what's causing it?
yeah, so this glass shattering is so the glass is not real, right? There's no such thing as glass. There's a collider with a mesh on it, right? The mesh looks like glass, sort of, but there's just some sort of physical object here. Um, the glass panel is part of, or has this script, glass box panel controller, and inside of the glass box panel controller script, you can, or let me just pop out real quick. So you can see this has a rigid body, right, with a mass and all that is affected by gravity. And remember, I said that rigid bodies are the things that give objects physicality.
Mhm.
So uh, normally this rigid body is not moving, but when you bump into it or shoot the bullet, it can be affected by that. So I have this, I get this object's rigid body, and I see if its velocity is more than 1, which in this case is meter per second. And if it's moving quickly enough, then I break this glass, right? So I
Okay.
disable the window, which is the physical collider for the window, and I play the break effect and all that. So I just check to see if it's moving quickly. And when you hit it really hard, because it's like a physical object in the world, your physicality can impact it. And so you push it a little bit, and for like an instant, it is moving at faster than 1 meter per second. And so the glass breaks.
Mhm. Makes sense. Um, Another thing that I just thought of. I know there's level like we have like the conditions for the goals and stuff.
Mhm.
And I think is Three Strikes the only level that has like 2 layers of conditions? Like you have to knock down 10 pins to activate the board to activate the goal, and you do that 3 times.
So
How do you separate the pins? Are they each
yeah,
their own like thing technically?
if memory serves, and I'll bring it up, but I think the goal zone, actually, I don't remember. Uh, it's, where are you? 3 strikes.
4.
You're later now than you used to
It's
be.
64.
64. That's earlier than I thought. Um, so So we've got these scoreboards in here. So alley screens controller. It has left alley, center alley, and right alley. So this one script controls all 3 alleys. And each alley has its own set of, oh, those are lights for the scoreboard and pins, right? So it references all of the pins. So you can see, right? So it's got this list of the pins that belong to the left alley, list of the pins that belong to the middle alley, and so on. And so this controls the screens, but it doesn't actually control the goal zone. The goal zone, or do each of the pins? Generic transform replay recorder. That's the better one. Okay. Addendum to what I was saying about replay additional recorded object. You actually probably want to use generic transform replay recorder to record your generic objects in the world. Whatever, no one cares. So each of these pins has what's called a knockover condition controller. And that is the goal zone condition. So only the pins are responsible for whether or not the goal zone activates. The scoreboard just shows whether or not, like it just shows your progress. It doesn't actually control the goal zone.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, another thing about replays. I noticed. I think. Oh, I can't remember actually. But when I watch like my survival replay,
Uh-huh.
one of the only things that make noise are like the bowling pins.
Yeah, that's funny.
Is that like?
That's because this knockover condition control. So you know how when I was talking about replays and there some of those replays, actually right here, I could fix this bug right now. So you see how we've got replay additional recorded object here,
Yeah.
right? Which generic, I don't know why this is here. I don't know what this does. Maybe ignore this. Addendum to my addendum. I don't know what this is. But we have this replay additional recorded object. And if you look in this script, right, the knockover condition controller, in the update loop, which happens every frame, it checks if it fell over. And if it did, then you just exit. But if it didn't fall over, or if it doesn't, this did fall over is like a flag that we've set. So if this flag isn't set yet, then we keep going and we check what our up vector is, vector being a position in 3D space, X, Y, Z. We check the up vector and we see if it's less than 8, which means if you imagine an arrow that is length 1, that is always length 1, that just points directly up from the object, then if the y value of that is less than 0.8, that means it's like pointing at an angle pretty far. So if it's not upright, then we mark that it did fall and we play this sound effect. Fmod runtime manager play one shot. That is a sound effect, right? Hit peg sound effect. And so the reason that the pins play noise during the replay is because this script is still running, even though it shouldn't be. So what we could do is turn or add to the destroy these during replays list, we could add this knockover condition controller. And then they would not make noise in replays.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. I know there was one other thing, but I don't remember what it was. It might have been
I think it was like a glass shattering sound effect.
Yeah, the glass shattering
Right.
probably does that too.
Yeah.
Again, because the script that checks whether the glass should shatter and plays the noise doesn't check to make sure that we're not in a replay. And the alternative to that is that I mean, this script doesn't have to run at all during replays, but we could also like check the level state manager and then see if its current state is the replay state. And like, if this is true, then return. And then the script would run, but it wouldn't do any of this other stuff that it's only supposed to do in normal mode. Could also say like if it's in normal mode, then you check this other stuff.
Yeah. 'Cause I've had people say that they were like watching, and it was like in the background, and because I have the sound so much louder than the music, it like jump scared them when all of a sudden they just heard like 15 billion like
Yeah,
ping
yeah.
sounds.
That's very funny.
It was pretty funny. That's why I didn't want you to like fix it until a while
Till
after,
you,
and then I kind
till
of
you
forgot.
jump scared them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I'll get this up, and then I'm sure there will be 10 million more questions.
Yeah, once we start tinkering around and stuff.
Yep. And I would like to pre-apologize for all of the jank.
I'm sure we'll make even worse jank. Don't worry.
Cool. All right. I'm gonna call it. Bye.
Yeah. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for doing this and taking time to do this.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for all the interest. If
Yeah.
it wasn't for you, this entire Discord would be just dead. So
Well, I'm happy I could keep it alive.
yeah,
I wish I could have it be more alive, and I trust me, I do try.
I believe you. Thank you.
Everyone knows.
Yep.
So,
All right. Later.
see ya.
Yep.